really is a stark contrast for the champions compared to last season. 6 defeats in their last 7. As I mentioned, 4 league defeats in a row. And were they to lose later on at home to Aston Villa, that'd be the first time they lost 5 league games in a row for some 72 years. Confirmation there, the only win coming against Eintracht Frankfurt in the Champions League by 5-1 out of the League Cup on Wednesday as well. And just to put that into some kind of context, in terms of Europe's big 5 leagues in all competitions since September the 27th, Liverpool with the most defeats on 6. And Merce, as we try and put our finger on what's gone wrong at Liverpool, it seems to be at the moment that it's pretty much everything has gone wrong for them all at the same time.
Yeah, I didn't think they started the season very well. I mean, I know they
weren't convinced by that 5-match
No,
run,
they won the games. But if you look at it now, last minute against Burnley, a penalty was a penalty, but last minute, Newcastle last kick of the game. Arsenal, I thought Arsenal was so comfortable at Anfield that day. And then Bournemouth 2-2 with 5-10 minutes to go. So you could take 8 points away from them, and it wouldn't be that harsh, if you know what I mean, like last minute goals. I just thought I think he's gone out and bought and gone, you know what, I'm going to get Wirtz, I'm going to get Isak, and we're going to blow teams away. And I don't think he's paid the attention of how much they miss Trent Alexander.
So are you looking at, say, the way that Arsenal have done business, and we'll come on to talk about them, that for Liverpool it's very much been headline signings, undoubtedly talented players, rather than ones that have come in to enhance what they already have and strengthen it?
Yeah, but at the same time, you've always got to be good defensively. Always. If you're good defensively, and then you don't have to start scoring 3s and 4 goals.
You get Gay sorted right out of the start, not leave it to the last day.
I think they underestimated the Trent Alexander leaving. I think, and it's a domino effect. Trent Alexander leaves, all of a sudden you're talking one of the best passers in the Premier League, in my opinion. Then all of a sudden, when he plays at right back, now all of a sudden they're doubling up on Salah. Salah don't look like kicking the ball. And I just think it's a domino effect. They've got 2 centre-halves. My worrying thing during the week, it weren't all the changes they made. They didn't have hardly any, no big guns on the bench. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I just think he has put severe pressure on himself tonight. Not on the team, on himself to get a result against Villa.
And you look at those signings, Sue. I mean, obviously, we know that Ekitike has started strongly. It's been a struggle for Wirtz so far. Many think he will come good at some point. Kerkez, so far, under the microscope of being at the Champions, has looked out of his depth. Yeah. I mean, Jamie Carragher went as far as saying last weekend it's a crisis. Would you concur?
I still wouldn't say it's a crisis. I'd say that they're struggling and they're not where we expect them to be, because I think they've set the bar so high, what they did last season. They're certainly not where they want to be. I totally agree with Merce that even when they were winning the games early on in the season, they weren't at their very best. They were showing patches, and I watched the derby in here, and for 30 minutes they were brilliant against Everton, but then they didn't consistently do that for the whole 90 minutes. Everton got themselves back into the game, and there's just so many reasons, isn't there, that you can look at. You can look at the new players coming in, taking that time to adapt. They've come in with high price tags, which is pressure, so they're not quite living up to that. Again, what Mer said, losing players, the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold. You can look at Diaz as well. Even Nunes, I know he was hit and miss, but again, a player that, they were used to playing with. And I think also the players that were so good last season, your Mo Salah, your Virgil van Dijk, maybe not at the height. So there's lots of different factors, I think, why Liverpool aren't where they are. I still wouldn't call it a crisis, and I still think that they can turn it around with the quality in that squad. They can certainly turn it around.
And Boydie, one of the things we talked about plenty of times last season was just how seamless the transition was from Jurgen Klopp to Arne Slot. He's now had his own summer transfer window, and question marks are being raised about him. And perhaps he's not quite as good as we first thought. Are those kind of accusations a little unfair for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think someone, or any manager that wins the Premier League, deserves respect, because it's a difficult league to win. To come in from and take over from someone like Jurgen Klopp, it was always going to be difficult. So to take that team on, deliver a championship, it's not something to be sniffed at. I think when you look at where they are right now, there's a lot of big players underperforming for whatever reason. But the fact that Liverpool keep conceding early goals as well, and all of a sudden the nerves kick in, from the stands to the players, they need to stop conceding early goals to give themselves an opportunity to win games of football. Will it turn around? Yeah, you've got too many good players. I think Merce, in terms of the Trent Alexander-Arnold one, yes, huge miss. The other side as well, I don't think any of us sat here last year or even at the start of the season and said that the signing of Kerkez was going to be a bad signing, but he's underperformed. Andy Robertson, it's when you look at people like Andy Robertson who have given their all for the football club for a long period of time, and all of a sudden you think, well, we're just going to move them on. I know he's still there, but we're just going to move them on. We'll bring in Kerkez, it'll be fine. It's not as seamless as that, and they've struggled in areas. You look at the two centre-backs, I mean, Virgil van Dijk has been unbelievable, but there's been a few mistakes, whether it's because of Konaté's form, it doesn't look to be that. They don't look to be the same partnership as they've been. Gravenberch, I think, has been a huge miss from the middle of the pitch as well. So there is things where, haven't quite worked out. I think when you make so many signings, so many big signings, you're already under pressure. So there's a lot of questions right now around Liverpool as a football club. But I think they'll turn it around, to be honest. I think, we were speaking about it upstairs. If Arsenal, I expect them to win the league, but if they have to, Liverpool will still be the main contenders.
And Dawes, before we look at some of the potential answers in terms of turning this form around, I just wonder if it's just maybe been a little bit unfair on Arne Slot. This idea that he came in, just continue what Klopp was already doing. Because as Bordy rightly says, to win the Premier League, it is a tough assignment. But you look at the season before he arrived, they finished third. They're 9 points off Man City. The season before that, we finished down in fifth. 22 points behind the winners, Man City. It's not necessarily fair just to say continue what was there already, because the two seasons before, they were way off it.
Yeah, no, we were... All last season, we were nothing but complimentary of Liverpool and the job that Arne Slot had done. And this is the first real challenge that he's had through the door. And we've got to remember, a lot went off in the summer. Players going out the door, and he had to recruit. And it does take time. And I think Wirtz coming in, I sat in the summer and thought, I was really excited for this player coming in from Leverkusen. Yes, he came for an awful lot of money, but it takes time. And we don't have time in this industry, because you have to hit the ground running. Merce said earlier when they were winning games, and I disagreed with him at the time, they weren't playing well, and I thought it was a sign of a good team. But you've got to remember, coming into the start of this season, when you've won it, how hard it is to retain it. And unfortunately for Liverpool at this moment in time, they are so far off it, so poor individually, collectively, and the amount of opportunities they give away, you're in big trouble. And that's what we're seeing from Liverpool. But I think you've got to give the players time. Andy Robertson, which Boydie just touched on, I will put him straight back into this team at this moment in time. Get Kerkez out, take him away from the lights and pressure that you're under, because Liverpool aren't winning. And he's under scrutiny. And for any player, Andy Robertson will go back to when he signed from Hull City. He took him 6 months to be able to settle into this ginormous football club, and you look at the career he's had, I would put him straight back in, try and take some pressure off the players and just try and get back to winning ways, because, wow, they are a million miles off it, and I think it's a big crisis.
Even the goalkeeper. Alisson is a huge miss for them as well.
Yeah. Merce, before we look at the long balls and why they're struggling in that department, just picking up on some of the things that Slot's been saying this week, because understandably, when things begin to go wrong, you're under even more scrutiny than he already is. And it just feels like at times he's not helping himself. I mean, he spoke about the 10 changes he made for the Crystal Palace game midweek, where they went out of the League Cup, started talking and blaming fixture congestion, then started saying the squad not quite as big as people probably think it is. He has since rode back a little on that, but in terms of what he's coming out and saying, he's not exactly helping himself, is he?
No, but that's pressure. That's what pressure does to everybody. Don't matter who you are.
So do you think he can deal with it and turn it around like Bordy thinks he can then?
I think he'll turn it around. They've got too many good players. Too many, form, talent is permanent, forms, it's out the window at the moment. And what comes with that, with bad form, is confidence. Confidence gets shot, and they haven't got that confidence at the moment. I think, I just can't believe what he done in midweek. I honestly can't. When you're losing game after game after a game, you've got to start winning sooner or later and start that run. And it was an opportunity. I'm not saying that they were definitely going to beat Palace, but I felt for the young kids as well that were put out on that pitch against a good Palace team. When you're putting youngsters out like that, you've got to put experience with them. You can't leave them out there to get to hang, if I'm being, that sort of hung to dry.
Let's talk then, Sue, about this whole issue of long balls, because when you look in terms of teams who are facing this kind of tactic at the moment, well, Liverpool are facing more long balls than anybody else, 571 so far this season. Bournemouth next on 525. Doesn't exactly seem to be affecting them at the moment. So that's the way teams are choosing to play against Liverpool. We saw it a bit from Manchester United in their recent victory at Anfield. The question now is, What does he do to counteract this and restore and recover the form we saw last season?
I think that's what he's trying to figure out. And the fact that he came out and said it, didn't he? He said that's what we're struggling with. We're struggling with long balls, with set pieces, when teams go direct against us. And then that's exactly what Brentford did to them. Brentford exposed Liverpool's weaknesses. You know, they went long and direct. They were good on the throw-ins. They were good on the set pieces. And Liverpool struggle with that sort of physicality, if you like. And I think that's something now that he's got to try and figure out, because teams will do that against them. They know that that's a weakness of Liverpool's. I do think that Andy Robertson should come back into the side, and I think that's maybe Kirkez trying to adapt to the way that Liverpool play. Bournemouth play a different way. He's used to that sort of counter-attacking, whereas when he's having a little bit more of the ball, he is struggling, he looks low in confidence. I think what Andy Robertson does really well, he tucks in as well, and he can make a three. So if the right full-back, if you like, goes forward, he'll come and he'll help the centre-halves, because you wonder, are the centre-backs not playing as well because they're changing full-backs and because the full-backs aren't performing? So it's like, you'll know, Dorse, won't you, as a centre-back, it's difficult, isn't it, when you've got someone alongside you that's maybe not performing as well.
It doesn't matter who the full-back was beside me.
I always made him look good, Boydie.
That's true, right.
Dorse, as a defender, because you look at the game this season, in all competitions where they face the least amount of long balls, the one against Eintracht Frankfurt, and they win that by 5-1, more of the Liverpool we saw last season. But teams are going to continue to play this way against them. So from a defensive point of view, what would you be doing to counteract it?
You have to try and be strong. Merce touched on confidence. When you are struggling and you're losing football matches, you're conceding goals, and they've conceded way too many, and they're conceding opportunities. But that has to come as a collective, individual errors. We've talked about Canate. I always talked about him and Virgil van Dijk as a fantastic partnership. But they just don't look as though they are. You talk about your midfielders, your full-backs, and I'm with it with Trent Alexander-Arnold, because people see and the opposition see, how do we utilise their weaknesses? And put the ball in behind. We used to play. I love the fact that the long ball's coming back. I love it. Teams, I do it. Put the opposition under pressure. Could you go toe-to-toe against Liverpool? We saw it last year. Teams that got promoted, got relegated. Southampton with 12 points. Why did they get relegated? Because you try and play out from the back, lovely football. Let's change it. How do we beat Liverpool? Play the ball up to the top, put them under pressure, rather than let them just play and have a luxury.
I don't think much has changed in terms of, like, speaking about the long ball. I don't think much will have changed over the last period of time against Liverpool, because they've still got all the ball. It's just the forward players are misfiring. They're struggling to get the ball in the back of the net, and if you get the ball off them, there is spaces in behind them, because usually when you're failing to break teams down, the full-backs will go, they'll get higher. You'll get midfielders trying to go ahead of the ball. All of a sudden, that ball on over the top, and because it's fashionable right now, teams will just see it as an outball into those areas, in behind the full-backs, in between, into the centre-backs, and they're struggling to deal with that. I think it's something that Liverpool have faced now for a number of years, because they've got teams hemmed in, but because they're losing games now, everybody's highlighting it. I don't think it will have changed much over the period of time.
The thing is, Boyd, is because the opposition now go, look, we still know Liverpool are a real threat going forward. Virch will create chances. Look, he hasn't got an assist or a goal in his 9 Premier League games yet. That is really poor.
He is creating, though.
He is creating, but like Bodie said, they're not taking the chances. So if you don't score when you're on top, you're going to be vulnerable. I mean, the goal last week against Brentford, one ball from Damsgaard into Schade. That is really poor defending. I don't care who you are. One ball straight through the centre of your two centre-halves. And long throws coming back in. We saw, in my time, a red and white team stripes in Stoke City used to do it. I tell you what, it's coming fashionable. That's the ball that I'm looking at. That is unacceptable.
That's just pure defending.
Pure defending, Boyd. It is. It's not a long punt there. Your body shape from Canate. There's no pressure on the ball. You've got a drop. And then Kirkez gets his goal there. But you just think you always get an opportunity. At the time, I thought that was a little bit soft. Would it have been a penalty? It was where you bring Mike in. If it's outside, it's probably a free kick. But Thiago puts the ball in the back of the net, and Mo Salah gets his goal. But there's just too many opportunities against Liverpool that you can get.
But the thing is, Merce, you cast your mind back to the Community Shield against Crystal Palace at Wembley right at the start of the season, then those opening 5 games and beyond. This has been a running theme, just how easy Liverpool are to play through, how easy they are to slice through as well. And that's on Slot, that's on his coaching staff, to spot that early and not now be getting into the start of November and thinking, well, how on earth do we address this problem? The problem was already there, but it's now teams have found a way to really exploit it.
Yeah, but for how good Van Dijk is, and he's a Rolls Royce. He's one of the best centre halves. Michael will say one of the best centre halves played in the Premier League. if you haven't got protection in front of you, I don't care who you are. You know, if you've got people running at your left, right and centre and you haven't got that person, you see it with Man City without Rodri. You see how Arsenal, people go, oh, Arsenal's back forward solid. But people forget Zubimendi sits in front of the back four as well. And there's protection. And this is the problem with Liverpool. And I still think we'll be sitting here in December and January and going, he doesn't know his best team.
And this is a massive week coming up because it's Villa today. Villa banging form, 4 wins in a row. Then it's Real Madrid in the Champions League midweek. And then it's Man City.
But that's what I didn't like what he said as well when he went, we've got a big week coming. No, your biggest game's Crystal Palace. And then we'll sort that game and then we'll go the next one. If they don't beat Villa, they don't beat Real Madrid. And if they don't beat Real Madrid, they don't beat Man City. It's a domino effect. You know, win your first game. I know we all have a lot of fixtures. If you're a successful team, you get a lot of fixtures. But win that first game. You know, you've got to win. And then everybody goes into the Villa game. Honestly, Villa will be going here today going, right, keep this tight for 20, 25 minutes. And, I mean, the longer they keep this at 0-0 Villa, I give them every chance of winning.